to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. There's a global economic revolution happening right now led by President Trump's tariff policies. Despite broader reciprocal tariffs for most countries being on a 90-day hold, global markets are still reacting to the idea of tariffs. In the meantime, economic officials from countries near and far are scrambling to make a deal with the Trump administration. So that leads to the main question: what does all of this mean for you, and how can precious metals like gold and silver be your hedge against the current economic uncertainty that's gripping the world? Philip Patrick, who's a precious metal specialist with the Birch Gold Group, joins me now to discuss this and so much more. Always good to see you, my friend. So I'm going to flip this conversation upside down, and let's start with the precious metals, because it truly is now, maybe even more than it has been in many, many years, a hedge against the current economic, and I'll just put it like this, instability that's happening globally.
It's absolutely correct, and we're seeing it play out in front of our eyes. On Friday, gold hit a new all-time high, one of many this year, going over 3,200 for the first time in history. And what we're seeing at the moment is that classic flight to safety in an environment where the most basic rules of trade and investment at the moment are up in the air while President Trump tries to reshape the economy. Of course, it creates instability, volatility. We're seeing it in financial markets, and gold is reacting on the back of it. It's what you and I have been discussing for a while. It is coming to fruition now. Gold is moving.
And President Trump, to some degree, helped gold really kind of increase its value in that he didn't slap tariffs, or didn't really tax, if you will, gold and silver.
Yeah, bullion in gold and silver was exempt from the tariffs, which I thought was a very interesting exclusion. I think the administration understand, as they've been saying, we have to go through tough times to reshape the economy and get out on the other side. Precious metals, of course, are a lifesaver in climates like this. So it was a very interesting exemption, and of course welcome by the Birch Gold Group, by the administration.
Are you surprised that gold and silver bullion were exempted?
I have to say, we weren't sure what was going to happen. We thought they may. Look, this administration are talking about sound money. They're pushing crypto. They're pushing gold. So we thought there was a chance. We were very happy. So I'd say a little bit surprised, but it was certainly welcome. And I think investors around the United States should be celebrating that exemption.
So let's broaden the picture a little bit and look at President Trump's tariff policies and the impact it's had on the broader economic world order, if you will.
Look, at the moment, things are starting, right? So we're seeing a lot of volatility while tariff policies are being implemented. We saw a 10% baseline tariff on all imports, and additional country-specific tariffs. It's China that are taking it on the chin at the moment, and quite frankly, rightly so. They've been the biggest abusers of trade policy. So markets at the moment, as everyone can see, there is a ton of volatility, some of the biggest intraday swings in history, while corporations and central governments try and work out exactly what's going on. It's been a bit of a sort of red light, green light tariff policy, if you will, so far. So I think markets are struggling to adapt and understand exactly what's going on. But I think as we start to get a little bit more clarity with time, things will start to settle out. And they appear to have been already. That 90-day pause really calmed the markets.
Do you foresee gold and silver in particular remaining high, remaining at these all-time highs, or will there be a drop-off, particularly once the other markets start to settle a little bit?
Look, right now, projections are raising. All the major financial institutions, Goldman Sachs raised their gold prediction to 3,500 by the end of the year. UBS raised to 4,500 by the end of next year. I think the fundamentals for precious metals are stronger today than they've been in a long time. We can't forget the scale of the task in front of President Trump and the team. This isn't something that can be sort of dealt with in 6, 12, 18 months. It's going to take time to iron it out. Precious metals, I believe, will increase as that happens.
We appreciate your time, my friend Philip Patrick.
All right, here we go. Kicking off another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you along here from the Foxhole of Freedom. Warning. The Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, American optimism, and uncontrollable enthusiasm in the future of this great country. We're kicking off the live broadcast in Real America's Voice, MTN, reaching a growing global audience. Thank you for being here. It's the No Panic Zone. Three big things to know this hour. Number one Democrat state has seen its homeless population double in 5 years. More failing policies mean we're not getting the job done. Number two, in yet another sad turn of events, the Supreme Court has sided with illegal aliens and has blocked President Trump from doing his constitutional duty. Barrett and Kavanaugh are both long-term problems. And number three, we start with breaking news this morning. After delivering an Easter message and visiting with America's Vice President J.D. Vance, the Pope has died at the age of 88. Pope Francis, dead at the age of 88, a controversial figure over the last many years because of his very liberal policies on so many topics. The Vatican announcing that he died this morning at 7:35 local time in the Vatican. Born in 1936, Pope Francis has served as the Pope for many years. Big changes now for the Catholic Church. What will they do next? We'll talk about that going forward today, but that's the breaking news at the top of the hour today. Pope Francis dead at 88. The White House will be hosting the annual egg roll today on the South Lawn. This comes after an Easter weekend spent focused on the Christian faith. Listen to these White House staffers singing Amazing Grace. Yes, what a refreshing change compared to last year's debacle on Easter, which was to declare Transgender Visibility Day on Easter Sunday, a slap to all Christians around the world. The Democrat Party have made complete fools of themselves over the last several years, siding with absurd factions at the expense of most Americans. One example being the billions spent on the war in Ukraine. All for what? The war is still going on. The Trump administration says it's ready to cut ties if peace is off the table. They're trying very hard, but if peace is off the table, we're out. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
The Ukraine war is a terrible thing, but it's not our war. We didn't start it. The United States has been helping Ukraine over the last 3 years, and we want it to end. But it's not our war. I want everyone to understand that. And the reason why I make that point is the president has spent 87 days at the highest level of government repeatedly taking efforts to bring this war to an end. We are now reaching a point where we need to decide and determine whether this is even possible or not, which is why we're engaging both sides. So we need to determine very quickly now, and I'm talking about a matter of days, whether or not this is doable over the next few weeks. If it is, we're in. If it's not, then we have other priorities to focus on as well.
Yeah, there you have it. If there's peace that's achievable, we're in. And if there's not, well, then we're out. Vladimir Putin declared a ceasefire over the Easter weekend, one that President Zelensky of Ukraine called, quote, another attempt by Putin to play with human lives, not the most reassuring signal of peace, to say the least. We'll keep our eyes on that one. But back to the Democrats and their focus on the wrong priorities. They've dug themselves into a hole by defending illegal alien Kilmar Abreu Garcia, who was deported by the Trump administration. Here's President Trump listing what we now know about this man from El Salvador who is living in Maryland. Senator Van Hollen of Maryland traveled to El Salvador to do a wellness check on him, and this is lengthy, but it's worth a good listen. Here it is.
Is an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member and foreign terrorist. This comes out of the State Department and very legitimate sources. I mean, I assume I'm just giving you what they handed to me, but this was supposed to be certified stuff. In 2019, Garcia was issued a deportation order. 2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse than Tren de Aragua, and maybe worse. They kill people with knives because it's more painful. Very famous for the knifing and killing of two young 16-year-old girls walking to school one day, and they sliced them up into little pieces and killed them. That's MS-13. And two separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13. When Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money pouring out, an MS-13 gang symbol that he was driving with two other known violent MS-13 gang members, two of the most violent members that we know of in the MS-13 gang of thugs. In 2022, Garcia was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol and was found to be transporting 7 people from Texas to Maryland, and he had no driver's license. He was driving violently. In 2020 and 2021, Garcia's wife filed for a protective order from him and said he was violent and abusive and really scary, including allegations that he punched and scratched her on the eye, left her bleeding after throwing her laptop on the floor at her, ripped her shirt, and ripped off her shorts. He then grabbed her arm, leaving very severe marks. Garcia's wife also wrote in court, "At this point, I am afraid to be close to him. I just don't want to be close. I have multiple photos and videos how violent he can be and all of the bruises that he's left on me." She just couldn't get anywhere near him.
Yeah.
This is the man that the Democrats are wanting us to fly back from El Salvador to be a happily ensconced member of the USA family.
Long, like I said, but that is the same laundry list of allegations we've read here on the program. So the question becomes this: how does the American left keep finding itself propping up the worst possible people? How do they do that? So much for women's rights. The Democrat Party will go to bat for a wife-beating illegal alien gangbanger, while also fighting for a biological man's right to use the same locker room and bathroom as your daughter or granddaughter. Abreu Garcia's wife has been crowdfunding support for her husband on GoFundMe, but notice that she censored the tattoos on his hand. Why is that, I wonder? There's evidence to suggest that the symbols tattooed on his hand stand for MS-13. It's not looking good for them. She's also been facing an uphill battle trying to ignore the fact that she's filed restraining orders against him, as you just heard. Here's more.
Have to ask it. You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
My husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, and you know I'm not going to push on that, apparently. But
not going to push on that. Michael Strahan fancies himself a journalist. Journalists would follow up on that. Apparently he doesn't consider pushing for the truth as part of his job. To his credit, he tried. It appears someone in his ear probably said, "Don't ask any more about that." Oh, well, that's what we get. That's what we get from people like Michael Strahan. But when we come back, a masterclass from Stephen Miller, all right, to set the record straight. Good to see you on a Monday. We'll have more on the death of Pope Francis coming up a little bit later in the program. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Michael Strahan, not very good at the job of being a journalist. He asked follow-up questions. Did you not file a restraining order? Did you not write these things? Is this true or false? Did your husband do these things, yes or no? Well, it doesn't sell very well on crowdsource funding. If you tell the world your husband's a wife beater, you're not going to raise a lot of money that way. Oh, well, that's what we have people like Stephen Miller for, to set the record straight over and over again. The media won't do it. Michael Strahan won't do it, but Stephen Miller certainly will. Here he is.
Do you know how many stories I could tell you of children that were trafficked across the border and raped because of the policies of Joe Biden? There aren't enough volumes that could fit into a library to calculate the carnage that has been inflicted by the Democrat Party's policy of open borders. We can spend the rest of our lives trying to document those harms. Where does our whole country go to get repaid for all of the wealth, all of the prosperity and security that has been stolen from us by decades of uncontrolled illegal mass migration? Because we all deserve reparations for what has been stolen from us. It is a tragedy that defies our ability to even describe it.
Yeah. Instead of trying to make it up to the American people, however, Democrats continue down the same path. People like Senator Van Hollen's trip to El Salvador, or Representatives Garcia and Frost's request to the Oversight Committee for funds to do the exact same thing. They want to do this, to go to El Salvador. Well, here's Oversight Chair James Comer's response, quote, "It is absurd that you both displayed active hostility for over 2 years toward the committee's oversight of the Biden border crisis and the consequences of millions of illegal aliens entering the country. Yet now you're seeking to travel at the committee's expense to meet with foreign gang members. Your request is denied, and rightfully so. There are Americans still being held hostage by Hamas. Maybe they're alive. But Democrats are rallying around the release of a gang member instead of them. It's pretty despicable, really." In California, Governor Newsom is running his state into the ground. You know that, bleeding billions to cover state health care for undocumented immigrants, for illegal aliens, at the expense of the rest of his citizens. Newsom's latest budget proposal puts the cost of covering illegals at $8.4 billion in a state with the highest homeless population. Highest homeless population in California by far. Unbelievable. Give more to the illegals. Pundits and lawmakers on MSNBC jumping to the ridiculous conclusion that if illegal aliens are deported, then people of color will be too. Of course, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but they'll babble about just about anything. Listen to this.
Because if they could do it to them, if they could snatch students off the street without any pushback or recourse, they will do it to any of us. And to be very clear, it's going to be the people of color and vulnerable communities that are next in line.
I think that's right, and that's certainly part of why the African American community is so strongly behind the supporting Kilmar.
Yeah, we're like, we are not for this.
Yeah, because
I think that's right. Oh, good God. I don't think identifying yourself with a gang-banging wife beater is the winning strategy that you think it is. I'm just going to say that right out loud again. Well, the left-wing party focuses on the rights of people who came into our country illegally. El Salvador's President Bukele makes a bigger and better point. Here he is.
What about the human right for women not to be raped? I mean, what about the human right of kids to play or to be free or to go to the park? And what about the human right to live or the human right to walk in the street, right? But no, they were worried about the human rights of the killers.
Yeah, the human rights of a woman to not be raped, the human right of kids to go to the park and feel safe. A man who turned a dangerous, lawless nation into one of the safest tourist destinations in the world. He faced the same opposition Trump is facing now. The Liberal Party's obsession with making martyrs out of criminals. The Supreme Court has once again blocked the Trump administration from deporting Venezuelans under the Alien Enemies Act. The administration has signaled it intends to fight back. They did this, by the way, at the middle of the night, midnight. And I'm going to tell you again, Kavanaugh and Barrett are long-term problems. Meanwhile, the U.S. is currently experiencing the lowest number of southwest border crossings in history. And the Trump administration isn't just stopping there. Here's Stephen Miller on sanctuary cities. Again, listen.
Sanctuary cities are engaged in multiple criminal violations: harboring, smuggling, inducing, obstructing justice, obstructing official proceedings, and many other crimes. And this is something that the Department of Justice is taking a very hard look at. I'll just say that it is my view, and the view of this administration, that these cities are engaged in systemic criminal violation and that they are engaged in a scheme to nullify and obstruct the duly enacted laws of the United States of America. And I would again note, when we talk about morality, we talk about decency. Sanctuary cities shield criminal illegal aliens from removal. We repeatedly go into communities and arrest illegal aliens who were previously in custody, that they refused to turn over, that were sent back onto the street, that have subsequently raped or abused a child.
Yeah. Cracking down on these sanctuary cities is going to be an important piece of the puzzle to making America safe again. And if anyone can do it, it's going to be this administration. Will Democrats abandon this losing strategy of defending the worst of the worst? It's unlikely. But Americans are waking up to who will actually defend their interests, and hopefully that will impact the results of the midterm elections. I mean, I'd like to think so. All right, so I got a question for you. What's in your coffee cup this morning? Oh, by the way, brand new coffee cups here. Just take a look at this beauty. Just in, brand new, and I'm going to see if I can get these available to you. I mean, would you like one of these? Let me know if you would. Follow me on Twitter today. Follow me on Facebook today. That's your assignment. You can find out more about these great cups. Steve Gruber Show. Free speech rules, right? What's in your cup? Well, for me, it's 1775 coffee. No compromises. Some coffee is weak, not this stuff. 1775 coffee. It's single origin. Mountain raised in Bolivia. It is spectacular coffee. Some coffee is weak and corporate, but this coffee, 1775, bold, high quality, built for those who refuse to compromise. Hand-picked, high altitude, single origin beans, roasted to perfection. No toxins, no shortcuts, just damn good coffee in your brand new Steve Gruber Show coffee mug. What do you think of that idea, huh? We'll see if we can get these together for you. You like that? Huh? You like that? I think you do. All right, make sure you put 1775 coffee in there. 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10% on your purchase. 1775coffee.com. Promo code Gruber. I'll be right back. All right, coming up at 45 after the hour today, we'll take a deeper look at Pope Francis. He has died at the age of 88, if you just heard the news, and just happening earlier today. He gave his Easter message. He met with J.D. Vance yesterday, died early this morning at the age of 88, did Pope Francis, which means the Catholic Church will be going behind closed doors to pick the next pontiff. We'll keep you up to speed on that process. It is kind of a fascinating historical process, interesting to me, and because of that. I mentioned homelessness in California a moment ago. Well, in Colorado, it's worse. Yeah, in Colorado, it's worse. Colorado's seen the fourth highest percentage increase in homelessness in the U.S., just the fourth highest. It's gone up 90%. Homelessness in Colorado has gone up 90% since 2020. It's remarkable. The report by the Free Enterprise Common Sense Institute also called into question most of the state's housing first approach, saying it may not be the best approach to addressing this challenge. Colorado's homeless population up 90% since 2020. Vermont, by the way, up 212%. Illinois, 148%. Rhode Island, 121%. Can you imagine? The homeless population is 3.2 out of 1,000 residents. But listen, Vermont, Illinois, Rhode Island, Colorado, all blue states with out-of-control homelessness. And they keep sending millions and billions of dollars, and they get nowhere. They make drugs easily accessible. And, Colorado, they were one of the first states to really liberally open up drug use. Well, they did. Capitalism has produced the greatest increase in human wealth, living standards, and overall flourishing. Do you agree with that, yes or no? Well, at Hillsdale College, they've got brand new courses to teach you about what's happening with capitalism and what it really means. Hillsdale College offering 40 free courses online. Yep, free. Subjects like the Constitution, the Roman Republic, Genesis, and now understanding capitalism. It's easy. 7 short courses. Right now, go to gruberforhillsdale.com. There's no cost to enroll. gruberforhillsdale.com. You'll be the smartest person in the room, and you'll like that feeling. gruberforhillsdale.com. It's all free. When we come back, a different take on tariffs, one you have not heard. Straight ahead. Welcome back to the program. Look, my next guest is a man I've gotten to know over the last several months pretty well. Spent some time with him in some different places, learned about his company. And you hear a lot about tariffs these days. You hear tariffs are good, tariffs are bad, the market's up, the market's down. Well, for him, the tariffs have been a real blessing, to say the least. Jeremy Barker, he's the founder and CEO of a company called Murphy Door. Jeremy, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Steve.
Good to have you here. Now, I'm gonna roll a little video here. Murphy door, basically all these doors that maybe it looks like a bookcase, or maybe it looks like something else, and it slides and opens, and you end up with a secret room or a secret passage. I mean, you are the guy that builds dreams for a lot of people, right?
100%. You dream it. You've thought about it since you were a little kid, and guess what? We can build it. If you can't find it on our website, we'll design it for you.
Right. And so right now, and people can see what's going on here in the video. Look, these are cool products, but you just told me before we came on, because you hear people say, the Democrats say, oh, these tariffs are terrible, you're destroying America, blah, blah. The tariffs have created a situation for you that your business has absolutely erupted. Tell us about that.
All right, you got it. So first and foremost, I'm well aware in the tariff world. I have Murphy ladder as well, which is a ladder that we have manufactured in China. So we've been affected by tariffs since the early Trump days, right? So I understand the dislike of tariffs because it caught us off guard. But in this current situation, when I built Murphy door, I was a firefighter full time. I didn't have the money to be importing products, so I had to learn from no money how to manufacture something right here in the United States with domestic products, because I couldn't afford large amounts of inventory. So by chance, now at this tariff run, we've had the unique opportunity to be working at 97% of all our products are made domestically. We manufacture all our stuff with domestic products as well. And this time, we're sitting on the receiving side of all the people that are needing to onshore. So our phones over the last few weeks have exploded. The wonderful thing about it is our people are well taken care of. We are able to pay them their health insurance, good wages, and give them manufacturing jobs, as well as adding more equipment. Where you had another piece of equipment.
Now, hold on right there. Isn't that the vision that Donald Trump is trying to bring to America? More manufacturing, good wages, good benefits, a good living situation, expanding it, made in America. You're in Utah, right? And you do that there. How many employees do you have, Jeremy?
We have 102 between Utah and Kentucky. We have a plant in Kentucky as well.
That's right. Okay, so, but what you just described, manufacturing in America, the phones ringing, employees that are happy, isn't that the dream that Donald Trump's trying to bring to America?
100%. And I'll tell you what, it's working for me, and it was immediate. It was a shocker to me that people were that rapidly responding to kind of mitigating this tariff impact. It has exploded our phones, exploded our workload to the point where now we're adding equipment and headcount. And it was, immediate. It's shocking to us.
So 102 employees now, and you're hiring. All right, so tell me about, what do you build in Utah? What do you build in Kentucky? These are two very different parts of the country. Both places, I'm sure, are very grateful for the jobs. What do you got? What do you build? What do you do?
So we have mimicking manufacturing facilities as far as our wood mill. So we build all the doors and our Murphy bed systems in Utah and Kentucky. The only difference here in Utah is we also have a brand new plant for hardware that we're manufacturing here in Utah as well. We're onboarding all the stuff that used to be onshored here, and we're making that right here in the Utah facility, in addition to the door systems that are made the same way in Kentucky.
So let me ask you this. All right, so those are steel products being manufactured. So you're talking about hinges and hardware and things of that nature, right? Okay, so the wood, where does the wood come from Murphy doors, Murphy beds, and all the things you create?
So 97%, that's the reason I use that number, comes from the United States. Oregon, Northern California, a little bit out of Pennsylvania, up towards you. We've got some wood coming out of there. We have 3% coming out of Canada. There's some certain finishes that some of our our retail stores require or have asked for in the past, and that's what's coming out of Canada.
And what's the impact there? Yeah, 3% is obviously pretty small.
It's nothing. So I just want you to know what we did as of yesterday. Not only are we not raising our prices, we've demanded that our suppliers, if they're domestically manufactured, so they said, that they don't take capitalistic action saying that their supply chain is being heavily impacted, so we're going to raise our prices. If they move our price 1 penny, we will drop them as a vendor and move forward. So what we did, we took action and did a 10% price reduction yesterday.
And
we're not raising.
That's genius if people are listening to what you're talking about here. Not only are you saying supply it in America, but make sure you don't try to price gouge along the way. Look, it's not so. Let's talk about the supply chain. If you're getting your wood from Oregon and the place you just described, the loggers are going to work because they've got a lot of work to do, right? So the logging industries in this country are also booming, I would assume.
100%. Let's go back to see what this, the left likes to talk about environmental impact, taking care of your employees and all the stuff. Well, here you have a Chinese manufacturer, and we have a lot of knockoffs of people trying to say they're Murphy Door China, right? Well, here's the situation. They're buying their lumber from Canada, South Africa, or wherever, shipping it over to China, shipping it, manufacturing it there, shipping it to the port of Shanghai, then the port of Long Beach, and then it goes to a 3PL or an RDC, then to the storefront, or then to your mill, then to the store, then to the customer. Our supply chain, we have rails right in our facility. It leaves the mill, comes to our factory, goes to your house. With all 100% of our employees have 100% health care, dental, vision, 401k with a 4% match, and 100% tuition reimbursement. So we...
I think I want a job. Are you hiring? I think I want a job. I mean, that's a great package. Let's talk about that. But I want to go back to what you just said. From the mill, on the rails, into your factory, to your house. I mean, how more efficient and polite to the environment could you possibly be?
You can't. And that was the whole, I'm not Mr. Environmentalist, but we are very conscious about what we're doing. And if you think about it, when people try to argue with me about, say, hey, you're doing a huge environmental impact. I'm like, yeah, but when you're going to the store, you're buying the cheaper price thing, but yet you want me to give you 100% health care, 100% dental, and all these benefits and be environmentally friendly. Well, we have huge EPA regulations that we have to follow. Absolutely. And our environmental footprint of moving our product is extremely small in comparison to the cheap price tag that you want us to compete with.
Well, I think you described it. I think you described it really well. If it goes from China to here to Long Beach to there to here to manufacturing, you touch it from the tree to the factory to your house. If you don't touch it 25 times, you don't interfere with the environment 25 times. If you touch it 3 times, there it is, right?
And you know what? That was not my conscious idea when we did it. That's just the facts of how we are. That's how we ended up operating due to starting a business with no money, right? We're like, how do we minimize the touch, right?
All right, so I want you to bring that video back up, if you would, Anthony. Show the doors. We got a little bit of video here of the doors. They're very, very cool. Murphydoor.com, murphydoor.com. Tell the folks about some of the things that you create and some of the things that are available. We got about a minute here, Jeremy.
You've got it. So Murphy Door specializes in creating multifunctional furniture. It initially started with a bookcase door system to hide your panic room or whatever you wanted to hide. And then we realized we were creating a unique opportunity to make not just a door hiding stuff, but make a functional piece of furniture that can store anything you'd like. Then we expanded our offerings into beds and, armoires, nightstands, and made those multifunctional. So we're well known for speakeasies and humidors and office spaces and hidden wall panel systems. If you're looking for a unique offering in your house, you're trying to have a hidden room or a storage space that you have a tiny bedroom and you don't know how to lay that furniture out to get the maximum amount of use out of that furniture or at that space, we can make your closet that is a normal, reach-in closet be a quasi walk-in closet.
It's something, folks, you've got to go take a look. It's murphydoor.com. He's got all the things you described and more. You want to hide money, you want to hide jewelry, you want to hide whatever, it's there. Murphydoor.com. Jeremy, I got to leave it right there, my friend. Murphydoor.com. Thank you. back to it now. If you're just joining us, the news today is that one day after Easter Sunday and one day after meeting with Vice President J.D. Vance, Pope Francis has died at the age of 88. Pope Francis dead at 88. The announcement came from the Vatican. Cardinal Kevin Farrell writing this. Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life dedicated to the service of the Lord and His church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and most marginalized. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the one and triune God. J.D. Vance also posting on social media, like I said, one day after meeting with the pontiff on Easter Sunday, yesterday. I just learned of the passing of Pope Francis. My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill. But I'll always remember him for the below homily he gave in the very early days of COVID. It was really quite beautiful. May God rest his soul. Vance putting that out a short while ago. Vance, of course, still out of the country. Pope Francis, who was raised in Argentina, the first pope from the Americas, the first Jesuit to hold the office. A controversial pope, to say the least, a progressive pope that stirred much controversy in the church for many of his stances, many of his comments. He criticized Donald Trump for his policy to deport illegal aliens in the United States. And that's fine. He also questioned Joe Biden's stance on abortion. In 2022, he questioned then President Biden's conscience on abortion in an interview during which he described the commander-in-chief's religious identity and views on abortion as incoherent and said, quote, a month after conception, the DNA of the fetus is already there and the organs are aligned. There is human life. He said that on Univision. When asked about the race for the American presidency between Trump and Harris, he wrote, both are against life, be it the one who kicks out migrants or be it the one who kills babies. Pope Francis. You know, it's interesting in poor health. Can we grab bite number one here? The reason being Pope Francis has been in declining health for some time. Joe Biden was described there in that interview as incoherent on his positions on abortion. And it reminds me of something I saw from Ron Klain yesterday. Ron Klain, Joe Biden's first chief of staff. By the way, he now says that Joe Biden was a mess, physically, mentally, which is weird because, right, and we're going to have two sound bites, one from yesterday and one from last summer, right after that massive failure in the presidential debate, June 27th. Klain said Joe Biden was fine. But the fact of the matter is he lied about his health. So did everybody else in the media. Listen to this. Here it is.
Klain, of course, was Biden's first White House chief of staff. He told me in devastating detail just how out of it Joe Biden was. He didn't know really what his second-term plans were. He couldn't follow the back and forth with the Trump campaign. At one point, he wanders out, sinks into a lounge chair by the pool, and falls sound asleep.
You were involved in preparing him for that debate. What can you say about the man you worked with in the week leading up to the debate and the man you saw on the stage? Was that an aberration to you? Were you surprised by what you saw in the debate? Because that really is what a lot of voters are trying to sort through.
Look, I thought, as the president said, he had a bad night. His practices were better, and he was tired from all the back and forth travel around the world, and was suffering from a cold that really constrained his voice and constrained his ability to be forceful in the debate. And he was trying not to lose his voice, which was very scratchy and very impacted by his cold. But the president is absolutely sharp, fit, on top of his game. People can see that for themselves. You don't have to take my word for it. People could see that for themselves last night in the press conference. We saw in the press conference last night was much more typical of what we saw in the debate preparations. And, I worked for President Obama. We had a horrible debate, the first debate in Denver in 2012.
Yeah. He was gone before he ever assumed the office in 2021. That's the takeaway here. The Democrats are in deep trouble, by the way. David Hogg, the radical little far-left activist from Florida, now having to grovel for forgiveness, having declared that the Democrats would primary those that they don't like. His nonprofit giving $100,000 to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee because of his comments. The donation addresses one of the central complaints of Hogg's detractors, particularly battleground district Democrats, that his efforts will draw resources away from the fight to retake the House. Hogg told the New York Times that his group, his nonprofit Leaders We Deserve, will spend $20 million going after older House Democrats in solidly blue districts. Hillary Scholten of Michigan told Axios, "I can think of a million better things to do with $20 million right now." Yeah, David Hogg, the civil war within the Democrat Party continues, but when you invite clowns, you get a circus. Not too surprising. When you invite clowns, you get a circus. And a circus is what you've got at the Democratic Party. You think the Republicans are having trouble? Look across the aisle. I'll tell you that. I'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Monday. right, so much going on today. Samuel Alito blasting the Supreme Court for that midnight decision. Makes no sense whatsoever. Unprecedented Supreme Court decision moved to halt Donald Trump's Venezuelan deportations, legally questionable. This is Samuel Alito, and he's right about this, by the way. The decision issued at 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday effectively blocks the deportations of Venezuelan migrants under the 18th century law, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. It was signed off by alleged conservatives, Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, clearly not conservatives. Not much. The court advised the White House not to remove Venezuelans held in the Texas Blue Mountain Detention Center until further order of this court, so on and so forth. Another bad choice by this Supreme Court. Really. Unbelievable, really. Don't forget, we've got many alternatives for you. One of those being YouTube. We are now live on YouTube every single day, and I guess the user experience there is very, very good. So you can catch this program all 3 hours on YouTube every day, which is a place for you to spend time with us, which we appreciate. Always love kicking off the broadcast day here for Real America's Voice, the MTN Network, the Lobster Network, and others. Always working as we expand our reach across the country and globally, right? Love having you here. By the way, great partners make it possible. Your health, your most valuable asset. And at the Wellness Company, one of our great partners, they're here to help you protect it. From daily essential supplements to specialized immune boost formulas, the doctor-developed products are designed to help you feel your best naturally. Not just about supplements. As a member, you'll have access 24/7 virtual care, exclusive discounts, and personalized wellness plans tailored to your needs. Go to twc.health/Gruber today. Explore the wide range of wellness solutions. twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber, save 10% at the Wellness Company. Healthcare that works for you and a partner that's great for us. twc.health/Gruber. Remember, join us on YouTube today. Let's give that a whirl, shall we? Got a lot more to cover here. The death of Pope Francis and the problems within the courts of America still to come on the Steve Gruber Show.